Hey everyone, it's Enjoy English School. I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Antony.
Today we have our book club article called The Penguin Lessons.
今天我们要介绍的主题呢是好书俱乐部里面的这个好书呢是我的良师益遇见企鹅导师 The Penguin Lessons.
Today is July 5th and we're on pages 14 and 15 of our magazine. And I have to say, I think penguins are adorable.Yeah,
我觉得企鹅真的也好可爱哦。
Yeah, and they're a little bit naughty. They're a little bit playful. They're fun to watch. When I was a kid, I always wanted like a big penguin, like stuffed animal, and I never really found one.
And you want to squeeze them, right?
Yeah, and I wanted a big one. I didn't want like little one. I wanted a really big life-size penguin stuffed animal.
Wow, 所以说这也是我小时候的梦想。我很希望小的时候有一个那种企鹅的那种 stuffed animal， 就是那种填充玩具，可以用力这样子抱，而且它有大只的，就像 Chris 老师刚刚讲的一样。
Yeah, and in Taipei, there are some toy stores that sell really big stuffed animals. They're like giant giraffes and giant lions.And I just want to like hug it, but I think people would think that's weird.
我们这种年纪再去抱的话有点怪啦，对对对。
Okay, let's get ready to start our story. Okay, so welcome back to Enjoy English School. Again, we're on pages 14 and 15 of the magazine. Our subtitle begins, in this story about a teacher and his penguin friend who is really saving whom?Wow,
所以在这里的话，副标题上面写到说 In this story about a teacher and his penguin friend, 主角是一个老师，还有他的企鹅朋友，到底是谁救了谁呢？所以在这里的话，我们可以知道说是可能有人救了某个人，我们来赶快看看里面内容哦。
So circle that word whom and pay attention. We use whom with object pronouns. Him, her, us, them. And in fact, 在whom旁边, write those words out so you don't forget.Now, I was talking with Karen, who is one of our hosts at Analytical English, our sister magazine, and she was saying that she believes this is a dying word. And I have to say, I agree with that. Whom is still very important to understand, but it is a word you probably will see less and less and less.
没有错，所以在这边的话，我们看到 who is really saving whom 这个最后那个字 whom 的话，在口语上面越来越少听到。然后我们的这个 Karen 老师，也就是解析英语的老师，他有说到说这个字在现在英文法里头，英文里面好像越来越少，几乎快要消失的一个字了。
All right, let's continue to paragraph 1. In 1975,Tom Mitchell is just another typical 23-year-old who loves to travel.
好，再让我们看第一段的第一句话，他就告诉我们主角他的背景咯。In 1975， 好，时间的话是在1975年的时候 ，Tom Mitchell 就是我们的主角 ，is just another typical 23-year-old， 他也是一个一般的23岁的青年 who loves to travel， 他很喜欢的去旅行。
Now, don't forget 23-year-old. The 23 year is our adjective here. We can't say 23 years old.
在这里的话特别小心，就是 23-year-old 这个地方的 s 是不可以加的哦。
The Englishman makes his way to Argentina, where he finds work at a boarding school.
好，第二句话我们看到他说 The Englishman， 我们知道他是来自于英国，对不对？好，我们慢慢从这里面抽丝剥茧，找到这个主角的一些背景。Makes his way to Argentina， 如果你说 makes his way to somewhere， 代表是什么呢？ To go toward something or somewhere, especially when this is difficult or it takes a long time， 就是好不容易能够有机会到了 Argentina。想象一下，英国一路到南美洲的 Argentina， 的确不太容易，对不对？Where he finds work at a boarding school， 意思就是他在那个地方找了一个寄宿学校，他所提供的工作机会，那当然就是当老师了吧。
Even today, flying to Argentina takes a long time. But remember, this is 1975. And so there aren't little TVs in your headset and your chair. You don't have your iPad or your Nintendo Switch. So you're going to be bored a lot. And so it's difficult. When you make your way to someplace, you do it kind of slowly.Yeah,
所以像以前的话呢，1975年代的时候，你要想想看，是那种没有太多电视，然后也更不会有 Nintendo Switch 那些地方，是比较古老的年代。然后那个时候的话，你要漂洋过海的跑到从英国跑到这个南美洲 Argentina 阿根廷去，是很辛苦的哦。
Now, a boarding school is like Harry Potter school. The word board here really means food. So a long time ago, hotels and small like hotels, they were called inns, I-N-N. They often were not allowed to have a restaurant inside because of old laws. And so they could bring you food, but they couldn't have a restaurant. And they would bring food to you on like a piece of wood, and that was a board. So the board in room and board or boarding school really means food.
啊，所以在这里的话 boarding school 指的是寄宿学校，这个 boarding 的这个 board 里面这个字的话，其实就是以前在寄宿学校里头，他们可能没有餐厅，但他给你食物的话，他会放在一个板子上面，一个木头的一个东西，然后食物就放在那边。所以在这里的话 boarding school 这个 board， 或是你常常听到 room and board， 好，有提供住宿的 room， 还有食物 board， 这个 board 根本就是指食物的意思。
Our next sentence says, between looking after kids with rich parents and preparing for classes, he takes side trips around the region.
OK, between 这个地方还是有两件事情嘛，对 ，looking after kids with rich parents， 好，他也帮忙照顾这些有钱人家的孩子，对不对 ？And preparing for classes， 自己准备这些备课。He takes side trips around the region. 那他也会在这个 Argentina 的附近走动。好，来在这个两件事情之间呢，还要找一些空档时间来旅行。他真的很爱旅行。
One such journey, this time to Uruguay, changes his life forever.
OK, one such journey 就在某一次的旅行里头，就在这一次 this time to Uruguay， 好，这次就是到了乌拉圭 changes his life forever。这里的 changes his life forever 就这样子改变了他的生命的轨道。
All right, and with that, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're on day 1 of our 2-day lesson called The Penguin Lessons, and we're on pages 14 and 15 in our magazine. Let's start paragraph 2. While in Uruguay, or Uruguay, both are fine, Mitchell comes across a poor penguin on the shoreline.
好，在第二段那个第一句话我们看到，好while in Uruguay,Mitchell comes across a poor penguin on the shoreline. 好，现在要告诉你说为什么会改变了他的生命呢？原来呢是在乌拉圭的时候呢 Mitchell comes across 这个意思就是指突然偶然的遇到了A poor penguin， 好，一个很可怜的 penguin。poor 这个字的意思虽然可以指很穷的，但这边它指的是很可怜的一个那个小小的这个企鹅呢 on the shoreline， 在海岸线上面呢，突然看到这个可怜的企鹅。
But to be fair, the penguin also probably doesn't have a lot of money, so he's also like poor.
好可怜，没有钱。
All right, our next sentence says, covered in oil from a recent spill, comma,The bird is knocking on death's door.
好，在这句话特别注意一下，我们看到了一个分词构句在前面，它这边写说 covered in oil from a recent spill， 这个 cover 你帮我们先圈起来，这个地方我们有一个分词 VPP， 我们要去找到底是谁，那我们要往后面去看 the bird， 好，这指的就是这个 penguin。所以在这边的话，他提到说，他呢浑身都是被油包覆着 ，from the recent spill， 就是最近的漏油事件，让他的这个油全身都包覆在他的身上。The bird is knocking on death's door。那这个 death 指的当然是指死神，对不对？他已经在敲死神的门了，意思就是他已经奄奄一息，快要死掉了。
That's right. It means the bird is close to death or will die soon.Now, before we continue, look at the noun here, spill. This is a noun here, but it's also a verb. And it's a weird verb because some people make it regular and some people make it irregular. So the past tense and past participle for a regular verb, 都这位 ed, spill, spilled, spilled. But some people, and I think more British people do this, but I can't promise you, they'll say spill, spilt, spilt.
我印象中也很深刻，就当初我在看到一句话叫做覆水难收啊 It's no use crying over spilt milk.
That's right, and you'll hear people say spilt milk.
没有错，在这里的话，它就会用这个 t 结尾的方式，而不是用加 ed 结尾的方式。所以有机会你会看到，那老师是说很多的英国人他们会用 spill t 结尾的方式，但是他不跟你保证说所有英国人都会这样讲。
Our next sentence says, in fact, hundreds of penguins have already died in the spill.This one, it seems, is the only one left alive.
OK, 天哪，这听起来就觉得看了这个句子我就好伤心哦。In fact, 事实上呢 hundreds of penguins, 有数百只的这种企鹅呢 have already died in the spill. 这个漏油事件其实已经造成了数百只的这种企鹅死亡了。This one, 现在你看到这只快挂的这一只呢 This one, it seems, 似乎呢 is the only one left alive 是最后硕果仅存还要快要死掉的这只企鹅还活着的这只企鹅感觉上天哪再不救它这边的企鹅就要死光了
Our next paragraph begins with an interesting sentence. Mitchell cleans the bird up and saves his life.
好再来我们看到第三段咯第三段他就说 Mitchell cleans the bird up好 clean something up or clean somebody up 通常是 something 好就是把它洗得干干净净把它清理干净 and saves his life 就是把它救起来了救了起来把它洗干净 Mitchell 对这个企鹅做的就是这件事情
Now a penguin is an animal and you probably remember the old rule that if it's an animal we shouldn't say he or she but in fact 事实上 a lot of people do give their animals what we'll call a sex or a gender, so make it male or female. I have 10 cats, and I don't call any of them it. They're all he or she. They're all boys or girls to me. And so while this is probably like, I would say it's not textbook standard, it's really normal to do this, and therefore it's not really wrong either.
没有错所以老师刚刚要提到说你有没有注意到这个现象呢10只猫有没有觉得好多每一只猫都有它自己的名字自己的个性然后它也不会叫它们 it 所以在这里的话即便参考书上面或教科书上面写到说这个非人的都叫 it 那种生物对不对但事实上我们会帮它取名字在这边的话也是同样的状况
Our next sentence says, he tries returning the bird back to his natural home, the sea.
好这边他就说了 he 这边 he 指的是 Mitchell tries returning the bird 好就是指想办法想要把这个企鹅呢送回到他原本的家乡 back to his natural home the sea 送回他这个海边
Now the sea also can be called the ocean O-C-E-A-N but that C 发 S-H the ocean
对在这里的话这个 O 如果说今天你就 the sea 如果是变成海洋 the ocean 的话这个 O-C-E-A-N 的这个 C 呢要发 S-H 的音 ocean
Our next sentence says, the penguin though is having none of it
the penguin though is having none of it having none of it 就是说我才不要这么做呢完全不想要这么做不领情他所做的这一切呢完全就是不要他拒绝接受
That's right. And so the penguin doesn't want that. The penguin refuses to accept the situation. So the penguin is having none of it. And our next sentence says, Mitchell saved his life, and now the two are bound to one another like characters in an old Western movie.
对啊，这句话就非常有画面，对不对？ Mitchell saved his life.好，他把这个企鹅救了他一命之后呢 and now the two are bound to one another. One another 就是 each other 的意思 bound to each other or one another 就是两个人就是必须被绑在一起那种相依为命的感觉 like characters in an old Western movie 好，意思就像是很像那种西部老电影最后呢可能姐弟俩相依为命然后想办法要面对日后的生活那样子的感觉
Now are bound to one another is the passive voice. So they are tied together. That's what bind and bound means. If we make this the 原形动词, we have to bind, and this means to tie up. If you take a book and you open the book, you can see how all the pages are tied together. That's called the binding.
The binding 这个是指那个你看像这个书有没有？你打开来之后，你发现中间不是有一条那个把它绑起来的那种线吗？那个绑起来的把东西捆在一起的那个东西就叫做 the binding。那如果说今天提到说 the two are bound 这个字就是从 bind 这个字绑 tie something together 这样的字演变过来的。
So why are these characters bound together like an old Western movie? Well, in old Western movies, there's kind of this old story idea where you have like the good guy, he's usually like a police officer, and he catches the criminal, but he's not close to a town. So he has to bring the bad guy to a town, but the bad guy can run away. So what does he do? He ties him up with a rope, and he ties the rope to himself.But then some crazy adventure happens, and these good guy, bad guy, they might become friends.
好酷哦！所以在西部片里头，很多时候一个这个警察可能要追捕一个坏人嘛，然后追捕的时候可能离他家乡很远，所以说今天要把坏人运送回他的老家，然后把他绳之以法的时候，真的在运送过程中就把他自己跟这个罪犯绑在一起，可能他们一起经过了一些冒险，然后最后发现到，你本来可以逃走的，但是呢，你选择了救了这个警察，于是他们两个就变成好朋友，所以这个 bound to one another 这个东西 be bound to one another 是实际上绑在一起的那种感觉。
All right, let's take a quick break. Welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're talking about the Penguin lessons. It's day 1. We're on pages 14 and 15 in your magazine. Let's begin the final paragraph. Mitchell manages to smuggle the penguin, whom he has named Juan Salvador, Spanish for John Who Saves, back to the boarding school in Argentina.
Wow, OK, 所以在这里的话呢，要特别注意一下，这里面的话，他如果说今天你的那个企鹅不愿意回到大海，那怎么办呢？只能这样带回到他的寄宿学校去，对不对？ Mitchell manages to smuggle 这个字要特别注意 smuggle 本来指的是那种把毒品偷的
That's right, smuggle drugs as well.
对，没错，偷渡到他们那个什么地方。但 smuggle 的话通常是接到毒品 drugs 比较多哦，但是学校应该也不会希望你说你没事把这个 penguin 带回来，所以也是用 smuggle 这个字，想办法把这个企鹅偷渡到这个寄宿学校以后偷偷养着。 Whom he has named Juan Salvador. 那这个地方的话，他提到的是 Juan， 这个是他的西班牙文名字，对不对？ Spanish for John Who Saves. 好，也就是这个 John 是会救星，我就把它翻成救星约翰吧。好，约翰救星，那他就把它取名这个名字。Back to the boarding school in Argentina 就带回了阿根廷的寄宿学校。
So in Spanish, J-U-A-N, that means John, is pronounced Juan with a W. So it sounds like ball, or like 丸子, right? So that's what it sounds like in Chinese and in Spanish. Juan. Not Joanne or something. Okay, our next sentence says, at first, it's just him and Juan figuring things out like new roommates.
我觉得这个很有趣哦。At first, 刚开始呢，他们也要彼此互相适应嘛，对不对？ It's just him and Juan figuring things out like new roommates. 就很像是你到了大学以后搬进宿舍，你跟你的室友总是要有个磨合期，好，对不对？就是想办法 figure things out， 想办法要去弄清楚怎么样跟彼此相处的那种感觉，就像两个新室友那样。
Yeah, when we figure something out, we learn how to do something, but it doesn't feel super fast. It's not like, 我一听我就懂了. This is, you got to practice it. Like, think about like Rubik's Cube. It takes you a minute to figure it out.
没错，就很像是玩魔术方块一样，你要想清楚说，这样转，然后弄一下，不是马上就能懂，是慢慢去学会怎么样去跟彼此互动，慢慢了解怎么样去玩魔术方块那种感觉。
Our next sentence says, but word quickly gets out, soon everybody knows.
But word quickly gets out. 这边特别注意一下，这个 word 它是没有加 s 的，它指的意思是消息 the news. 好，消息呢很快的就传开来了。很多时候你要提到这个 word quickly gets out， 就是大家都晓得了，纸包不住火嘛，对不对？他说，我听到昨天有企鹅的叫声，昨天怎么回事？大家可能就慢慢知道了 Juan 的存在。
Before long, Juan is the star attraction. of the school.
Yeah, before long means soon. 很快的呢 before long.One is the star attraction of the school. One 呢就变成了众所瞩目的焦点，就是学校里头大家都知道 One 的存在。他说：“哦，你有看到那企鹅吗？有啊，有啊。”大家都很在意它。Attraction comes from the word attract. Attract 就是吸引的意思。Attraction 的话就是它的名词形态。
Let's jump right into vocab review.Okay, for vocab review today, number 1, typical.
Typical 就是典型的，它是一个形容词。
Number 2, to make your way to some place.
To make your way to some place 意思就是指说很不容易的，好不容易的到了什么地方。
Next, a spill or to spill.A
spill 就是指可能多半指的是什么东西漏出来了，在这边的话指的是 oil spill 就是漏油事件，或者你可以把它当成动词 to spill 就是洒出来的意思。
Next we have to bind or to be bound.
To bind 就是绑在一起 or to be bound 就是被绑在一起。
All right, well, we'll be back tomorrow with day 2 for Enjoy English School. I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Antony.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.